All right, so let us introduce Gregory Montgomery Gladstone, Lambert's new character. So, why don't you, in a few words, tell us about Gregory?
God, it kinda
Please.
seems like I need to stop laughing at what Danny said and try to. Sorry. Um, I don't know how to sum him up. The problem is something like arrogance. That's not necessarily a very much defining trait of vampirehood when most are. But taking kind of cream of sort of English aristocracy, a upbringing, adding to it a layer of the high vampire etiquette Casey adore,
Mm-hmm.
and put with it a kind of determination in that he thinks himself better than everyone because he is, at least to his own eyes, and that what he is doing must be the best because he is him.
Okay.
So that I don't know how much that distinguishes him from all vampires in terms of arrogant bastard, but yeah.
Okay, so in terms of age, he is probably 50 or 60 years as a vampire. So he would have been turned when before the two world wars, when the British aristocracy were still as scanty as they used to be, before they get
Yes,
knocked down a smidge.
as a British person, I would say a smidge. Yes, they're still kind of assholes most of the time, but
Okay,
this is going this is going to be worse, even worse.
okay. So he got turned. Assume he spent a little bit of time either in Britain or in France.
It was a bit in France. That's because that's where his sire would have still been.
Okay.
And have the sire dead or something, given that the kind of case you don't do the long-term contacts with sires and
Well,
everything.
honestly, it doesn't matter. It's been so long ago that at this point your character is gonna be independent and traveling on his own anyway. But,
Yeah.
well and good. So, at what point and for what reason did he decide to come to the New World then?
That was going to be to do with the contacts and that with his contacts in the the small drinking club of cases, there were actually bothering to meet in Britain the ones that hadn't been had disagreements with the club and formed other ones and everything. In had heard words from the what's the name of the Casey over here?
Uh, let's find out. It's Pamela Bell.
Heard word from Pamela. The club had sort of had contacts discussing recipes and concoctions, but had heard that there was a great wealth of different kind of supernatural bloods in the city, and that there was a fairly free reign to actually, as long as you don't rock the boat, there might be an opportunity to expand the collection, and then leveraging the fact that Gregory has quite it's not an amazing collection, but it's a significant collection for a case hit of different bloods and stuff, as well as the occult books. Pamela was then happy enough to tell him to come over here, to at very least just take advantage of the fact that he would or would want to
Mm-hmm.
be able to look at the collection books, if not actually anything else.
Yeah. Um, you know, honestly, if what you have is actually a collection of various supernatural bloods, then that should probably be a level 2 collection rather than one because
It's mostly Cainite and stuff. It's not it's not the different. Yeah, it's not actually intrinsically valuable enough to actually that you. So it's just interesting.
So it's mostly just vampires of different lineages and not that are supernatural.
Yes.
Then yeah, then it would be a 1
Yes.
point.
Yes, that's partly why I want some there to actually get the supernatural bloods, because usually when acquired, they get used very quickly, and it's quite a lot harder to get any of it. So getting a good supply for his collection, as well as then the experiments with it, can't not do that.
Yeah, as far as you would know, Pamela is more interested in the actual knowledge of how other supernaturals work and possibly tapping into their magics. So she's more like you would approach it more from an alchemical standpoint, she would approach it more from a ritualistic standpoint, right? So
Yes, and then the
she's
live,
yeah, she would
yeah,
be willing to help you acquire samples as long as you in turn share knowledge that you get from them to some extent, you know? That kind of
yes,
partnership. But okay, good. She would probably be your major contact then in the area, given that she's an established vampire with her own domain.
yes, I assume so. That's why I put the. Would 1 point in contacts work, or should I shift another point from retainer to contacts in terms of status?
Uh, no, 1 point is more than enough for her. You're. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Then, what would we go with for Ancilla? Like 3 positive, 2 negative? Or did we have.
Yeah, that was
I
it.
think
Yeah, I remember from the last guy at least. That was what we
In
went
terms of
with.
clans, yes.
Yes, clans or various groups. So, why don't you give us a positive pattern of behavior that would make some group more likely to like you? As an
Well,
example, it might be something like sharing some of what you learned with the premier, and in return, they're like you more than the average Kia seed.
that was going to be one of them. Yes, that because partly they don't necessarily want the supernatural blood if they've actually dealing with any hunting of them or anything, and more than happy to help on any of those, and also use abilities and help out their study of both obtenebration and mytheria, if it would, if for things which they probably aren't very interested in. The other ones were going to be the drinking club in the UK of the about half a dozen KSC. There's been some arguments and loss of members and various things, but they
Let's
managing to
go
get
through
along.
these one at a time, and you should write
Okay,
these
sure.
into your backstory. So, um,
Yes.
the first positive is gonna be the Tremere, and why don't you also describe to us a specific situation, like in a few short sentences, where, as an example of what that looks like in practice. Essentially, think of it this way: like you have a general behavior of sharing information with the Tremere, and it's kind of hard to understand exactly how that works in practice and what that means. So we, with each of these, we have people give like one example of what that might have looked like one of the times it actually happened, you know?
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm just helping with something in real life a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. Right. Yes. Where should I be? Oh no.
Allied. Are you a chipmunk today?
I don't know, am I?
you're
Yes,
not.
of course you are.
No, wait.
Ah,
wait.
yes. The warp is overtaking me, my children.
Something else is about to overtake you. I made his gargoyle
Alright, am I
enemy
better now?
cheat.
Yeah, you're fine.
It's so amazing. Epic, you're gonna love it. I'm gonna put a stone fist up through his backside and out through his mouth. It's gonna be. Oh, hey, Ally. Nice to see you there.
Oh. Why must I be bullied?
Because you're a bad person.
I'm not a bad person. I'm just misunderstood. It's not my fault they don't understand the glories of genocide.
Glorious genocide, eh?
That great. What? How did I miss something in like 2 minutes?
I know, right?
We get bored. We start talking.
Okay. And then genocide. Okay. Great.
Yeah, we have a pretty good 0 to genocide speed.
Right.
Or time, I should
There's
say.
no reason for it.
But we may have some problem.
Speak for
Why?
yourself,
Wait.
Coke Fiend.
Okay. Should I go back to the describing backstory bit, or is genocide
Go
coming
ahead.
off the rail?
The pluses and negatives. We need to know these
Yes,
because it
so
will
about
affect the initial
premiere
impression.
with working. Okay, yes. One of the times working with them would have. Where to start with? Trying to tell stories at points. What would be the suitable kind of supernatural for them to actually want any level of help with? Though it could be actually something actually towards Faye in terms of trying to manipulate it into a trap so they could capture it, because they're not very good at necessarily charisma things, and having someone who kind of what's a squid?
What?
Just ignore them. They like to talk about random shit.
Okay, fair enough. But then it's just doing more the friendly face, the trying to do, as well as actually being able to handle self capturing the thing in return for that. Yeah, you're probably going to be doing whatever experiments. Don't care about that. Just need the amount of blood for the alchemical things.
Okay, so just, simple cooperation with catching a appropriate Fae.
Yes.
So that's less sharing knowledge and more actually working together towards common goals, which is
Yes,
perfectly
there'll also
fine.
be sharing knowledge in terms of the workings of mytheria and obtenebration, but using the entire lie testing bit of mythera and trying
That
to
would
see
be
what might
a
suppress.
second set of behaviors that they might find beneficial as well, and you can have more than one set of
Okay, I was
positives
just
tied
rolling
to a
kind of.
single group. So if you want to add that as well, that can be a second one for the Tremere and give you 2 pluses, not 1.
Sure, it wasn't that major, the amount of help and stuff with them. It's more of an occasional thing, and I was just
Yeah,
having two sides to the one bit, but whatever. It works.
it's the same for everyone.
Okay.
These are occasional things, but these are occasional things you're known to regularly do.
Yeah.
So it helps with the first impressions as a result. But okay, how about a group that doesn't like you, dislikes you?
Specific group. How close or relevant does the group have to be?
I'm not gonna let you pick changelings. Generally
No.
speaking, these would be vampire groups and specifically Camarilla
I mean,
clans or groups, most likely, or independents. It depends, but generally,
yeah.
ones
There's
that you actually connect with. Furious searching.
No, not furious searching. Trying to actually see if I'm needed to help all. But the first bit was a level of connection to the continental Cassia drinking club, kind of a level of enmity between them and the British one. However, I don't think that's necessarily very relevant as a part of it.
It wouldn't be. They are very small a group and extremely unlikely to have any real impact on this chronicle.
Either way,
so
which is probably the same way round.
the Malkavians might dislike you. Some of them like to play with the fairies. And there you are, hunting them.
It happens.
Demi, can you imagine pissing off the Malkavians in this city?
That's a lot.
No, I'm not going to pick Malkavians. But
That's
sorry,
a
I was
lot of breeding.
again real life stuff at me a second. But presume that would also mean the positive of the being in the British drinking club wouldn't actually help, as they are far too far away to do anything more than just
Yeah, it's
yeah. And some amount of enmity was from the Lesombo probably wouldn't be quite. I mean, they already hate the city and everything, so that doesn't really.
I would allow you to pick La Sombra.
Just for the level of partly tied in with the Tremere thing, it's the actually any level of teaching of being very friendly and in terms of giving Tenebration and bits about it to Camarilla clan, especially the Tremere and everything. Not that the Sombra particularly care much about Casiad, but then it's doing something that particularly is giving away their key power or telling or informing kind of like, oh, this is how this works. So the Tremere actually then have more knowledge about it, and it's kind of as a counterpoint to the.
Okay, so you're very willing to consult on how your powers work, and your dislike because of it. That's fine.
Going to get murdered by the Sombra now.
Well, groups that are less present or less impactful in the city, a negative with them is gonna count for more than ones that are very common. As a reference thing, you know Clan Enmity? That would be about as big a hit as 4 of these negative, as a guideline.
Right.
So
yeah, so it's a small thing, but unless they're further away, then it's a more major thing because they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit so, yes. That's the idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 3 good and 2 negative, do you say, or 2 negative, 2 good and 3 negative?
3 positive, 2 negative. So
Right.
we currently
So
have
so
one of each,
far.
yes. So the next positive.
Next positive. I think of a relevant group as well, because they only actually just come over. But what would be a group that would be wide spanning enough that it would actually count on both sides of channel and everything?
Okay, what are we talking about?
The positives and negatives.
Yeah, no, but what group specifically are you talking?
I'm trying to think. Sorry. Because I had some ideas, but the drinking clubs were 2 of them, but they don't really fit enough.
Well, you do have a
And-
second positive that you could apply to the Tremere then.
Yeah, I guess then that makes up for that I've lost that bit. What I chat? Okay,
Just ignore
Okay.
them, they're amusing themselves in the background.
fair enough.
I don't know what the fuck's going on, and I don't want to interrupt you.
Same.
Fuck, it's beeping at me. Oh no, it's the oven reaching temperature.
Okay, so you're gonna go
Right,
with
so then the
Tremere for
second
this? Okay.
Yes, and put the 2 bits into separate. Second negative, somewhat of supernaturals that have actually managed to any level know about him. The encounters are generally not been very positive towards them in terms of helping Tremere capture them or trying to steal their blood
You
in
know
other
what?
ways.
I will let you take changelings for negative. Just be aware, it means they will actually know about you to some extent as a specific creature, and
Yeah, I was going more general, but I don't know how that works. I don't know how in communication different supernatural groups would be.
No, you would have to pick one
I have to
because
pick a specific.
they're not any more in communication than, with some exceptions, but they're not any more in communication than vampires are with other supernaturals.
Fair enough. Werewolves then? Because the town's got some. There's definitely some in Britain. There's definitely something that would very much object to being, I'm going to take all your blood, then shut you out. Thank you.
Okay, the werewolves. And I assume this would be another situation where you've been with the Tremere and spiked someone with silver to drain a few samples?
Yes, or helped us with actually trying to capture and restrain one, because obtenebration tentacles are possibly a better way of trying to restrain them than. It's kind of, you need a lot of things to restrain a werewolf. Just any level of helping,
Okay.
level of luring it, level of.
Remember when Archie brought you that werewolf corpse, Jackalor?
Yes, I do.
It's still... I think it... Actually, no, he took the corpse, but you still have some of that blood in the chantry. Or William does.
Yeah, I do. Well,
Yeah.
technically.
Werewolf blood. That's going to be fun. Does Vivian want to drink some werewolf blood?
Hello?
Don't think
Hello.
so. But okay, last positive.
Last positive.
Just make sure that these are written into your backstory part and that you
Yes.
have a vague timeline of your character as well in there. You can see the
I've
examples.
kind of got the thing, but I wanted to actually talk about the stuff with you to actually make sure everything was fitting and everything. Like with the hunted floor not really working, that would have been in the backstory, so that's why talking through everything.
We can polish those details off as we go then, if you survive that long.
Yes, that's what I was meaning. That's why I was, I can.
Okay.
The hell, Chad. Does it count as a very positive with actually just the Camarilla actually being more in with the Camarilla than generally Jyhad are? It's a very small positive, but actually having
that would
generally
be
gone
more
to.
a case of status.
Yeah, it's not actually. Well, it's not even quite a level of. Yeah.
But essentially, not gonna be a Camarilla-wide thing because it has to do with how individual vampires are likely to see you based on what they've heard about.
Right.
You can go up to +3 with a single group if you just want to stack Tremere friendships.
No, that just sounds a bit. Sure. Who else would quite like him? No one. Ah, sad Jyhad. Sad Jyhad. Possibly Toreador. Just the level of his demeanor fits in quite well with their appreciation of beauty and art, as well as kind of the not bloodline stuff in terms of what the case is like, but in terms of the kind of aristocracy background and
That's okay. So
it's just a
essential.
level that he appreciates the right things. They appreciate that he appreciates the right things, and when he's around them, he knows kind of he does actually sort of, if they're talking about artwork, he knows to actually talk about something suitably expensive and taste and everything.
Okay.
It's not a major thing, but thought that would that count?
I'd allow it. That's suitably shallow for the Toreador.
Yes, and there's possibly the individual thing would have been that he knew of a particular Toreador who was looking for a certain kind of painting and he knew of where to get it and actually bought it, and then did a big thing of presenting it to them, and they were that specific tour was particularly very happy about getting that piece that they specifically wanted.
Okay, excellent. So, I'm gonna stop the recording for the introduction here, unless you have something else you wish to add, and we can.
Only eternal screaming.
Okay, excellent. That's the right attitude. Way to go.